Let me ask you something. You've got a budgeting app on your phone right now, don't you? Maybe Rocket Money, maybe Mint before they killed it, maybe just a spreadsheet you made in January with a lot of color coded tabs that you haven't opened since February. And every single month, you open it, you feel mildly terrible about the dining out category, and then you close it and order delivery anyway. And the crazy part? You're not irresponsible. You pay your bills, you've got some kind of emergency fund, kind of. You're putting something into your 401k, but at the end of every month, there's this gap, this unexplainable, frustrating gap between what you planned to save and what you actually saved. And you can never quite figure out where it went. Here's the thing, it didn't go anywhere surprising. You just never had a system that made you feel it before it left. There's a country on the other side of the world where the average household keeps 54% of their financial wealth in liquid cash, not locked in a 401k you can't touch, not tied up in the market. Actual accessible money sitting in savings. The number in America? 13%. And the country doing it better isn't wealthier. Their median household income is actually lower than ours. They're not living in bigger homes. The average Tokyo apartment is around 600 square feet. They're not depriving themselves. Japan has 2.6 million vending machines, one for every 23 people. They have 55,000 convenience stores. They are not spending less on everything. They are thinking differently about everything they spend. And it starts with a notebook a woman invented in 1904 that has no app, no algorithm, and somehow outperforms every budgeting tool Silicon Valley has ever built. My name is Miko, and I spend way too much time thinking about why smart, responsible people still feel broke. If you're someone who does everything right on paper but can never figure out where the money actually goes, make sure to hit that subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up if this helps you out. Let's get into it. Section 1. The problem isn't you, it's the operating system. I want you to sit with a number for a second. 3.9%. That is the average American personal savings rate right now. Meaning for every $100 that comes in, Americans save roughly 4 of them and spend the other 96. 4 cents on the dollar. And I'm not saying this to make you feel bad. I'm saying this because the number is so embarrassing that it has to mean something is structurally wrong. This isn't a discipline problem. This is an entire nation of otherwise functional adults failing at the same thing in the same way at the same time. That's not a character flaw. That's a design flaw. Now, compare that to Japan. The Japanese working household savings rate sits around 37%. Not 37% of wealthy households, average households, people going to work every day, paying rent, buying groceries, living normal lives, and saving 37 cents out of every dollar that comes in. Same planet, completely different relationship with money. And here's what most people don't realize when they look at that gap. The solution Japan found isn't a better spreadsheet. It isn't a more aggressive budgeting category system. It's a completely different operating system, a different set of philosophical defaults that make the right financial choice feel natural, and the wrong one feel genuinely uncomfortable. We're going to break down that operating system today, piece by piece, and then I'm going to give you the exact tool, the 120-year-old tool that makes the whole thing work in practice. But first, I need you to understand why the tools you've been using were never going to work, because this part matters. Section 2. The tool that records versus the tool that changes. Meet someone we'll call Ryan. Ryan makes $68,000 a year, which is close to the American median. He's a normal guy. He's got Rocket Money on his phone, he checks it occasionally, feels the familiar low-grade guilt about his food spending, closes the app, and orders delivery anyway. He's not reckless. He pays his bills on time. He's got maybe 2 months of emergency funds sitting in a savings account. He contributes 6% to his 401k because that's what HR told him to do when he started. But at the end of every month, Ryan has roughly the same amount saved as he planned to save, which is almost nothing. And he genuinely cannot explain where it went. The app shows him exactly where it went. $340 on restaurants, $180 on subscriptions, $220 on things categorized as shopping, but knowing where it went has not once made him spend less. Rocket Money has tracked Ryan's spending for 3 years. He has a detailed, color-coded archive of his financial regrets. Here's the problem. Every financial tool Ryan has ever used was designed to record his behavior, not change it. And there's a profound difference between those two things. Recording your behavior gives you data. Data can tell you what you did. Data cannot make you feel anything. And feelings, not data, are what actually change human behavior. We're not rational economic actors. We're emotional, occasionally irrational primates who buy things for reasons we'd be embarrassed to admit out loud, and then invent logical explanations afterward. Any financial system that treats you like a rational spreadsheet is going to fail you. Not because you're weak, because it's wrong about what you are. Japan figured this out. Silicon Valley hasn't caught up. Section 3. The philosophy. 3 ideas that change everything. Now, you might be thinking, okay, great, philosophy, but I need actual tactics. And I hear that. We're getting there. But I need you to understand why the tactic works, because without the why, you'll use it for 3 weeks and quit. The why is what makes it stick. So bear with me for a few minutes, because this part is genuinely fascinating. Idea 1. Motanai. There's a Japanese word, motanai, that is about 800 years old. Its roots are Buddhist, from Japan's Kamakura period, roughly the 1200s. The literal meaning is something like the absence of substance, the loss of what makes something meaningful and whole. The concept comes from a Buddhist teaching that everything exists in relationship. A grain of rice isn't just a grain of rice. It exists because of the farmer who planted it, the soil that fed it, the water that fell on it, the hands that harvested it, the person who cooked it. To waste that grain of rice isn't just to discard food, it's to dismiss every connection that brought it into existence. That's motanai. Not just waste, the felt weight of waste, the genuine discomfort of allowing something's full value to go unrealized. In 2005, Wangari Maathai, the Kenyan environmentalist and Nobel Peace Prize laureate, visited Japan, encountered this concept, and walked into the United Nations holding a t-shirt with motanai printed on it. She stood in front of the General Assembly and argued it was the missing 4th R: reduce, reuse, recycle, and respect. A single Japanese word powerful enough to cross a language barrier and land at the United Nations. Now apply it to money. The average American throws away 80 pounds of clothing per year. The average American home contains around 300,000 items. We have a $38 billion self-storage industry, not because we don't have enough space, but because we have so much stuff our homes can't hold all of it. So we pay extra money every month to store the overflow of things we've already paid for and no longer use. That is motanai made physical, a monument of unrealized value. Motanai applied to money means that buying something you'll use 3 times and forget is motanai. Upgrading your phone when your current one works perfectly is motanai. Paying for a subscription you stopped using 6 months ago but haven't canceled yet? Also motanai. And also somehow a category that shows up in almost every budget I've ever looked at. The concept doesn't tell you to spend nothing. It tells you to feel the full weight of what you spend it on. Americans have largely outsourced that feeling to a return policy. Japan built it into the culture. Idea 2. Hara Hachibu. There's a Confucian principle documented in Japan as far back as 1713, in a philosophical text called Yojokun, life lessons essentially, written by a physician named Kaibara Eken. It's still practiced today in Okinawa, one of the world's 5 blue zones, regions with dramatically higher concentrations of people who live past 100. The principle is called Hara Hachibu. It means eat until you're 80% full. Stop before the plate is empty. Stop before you feel completely satisfied. Leave room. Okinawans who practice this experience roughly a third of the rate of cardiovascular disease compared to Americans. Their obesity rate is a fraction of the American average. Researchers have linked this single habit, the deliberate decision to stop before full, to health outcomes that extend life by years, sometimes decades. Now, here's the translation to money, and it's almost too clean to be real. Spend to 80% of your income. Save the other 20% first. Not what's left over after spending. The 20% leaves before you touch the rest. You build your entire financial life on the 80% that remains. That reversal of sequence, save first, spend what's left, is a single mechanical difference between the person who always seems to have money and the person who can never figure out where it went. Ryan's current sequence, earn, spend, save whatever's left, which is usually nothing. The Japanese sequence, earn, save, spend what remains. Same income, completely different outcome over 5 years. And here's the psychological piece that makes this work.
Your perception of enough is not fixed. It adjusts to whatever container you've been given. If you consistently eat to 80% full, your stomach adjusts and 80% starts to feel like 100%. If you consistently live on 80% of your income, your lifestyle adjusts and 80% starts to feel like everything you need. The discomfort is temporary. The adjustment is permanent. Ryan, if he moved 20% of his $68,000 salary to a separate account the day his paycheck hit, before he could see it, before it could be spent, would save $13,600 this year. He has never once saved $13,600 in a year. Not because he couldn't afford to, because his sequence was wrong. Idea 3. Taru o shiru.
There's a phrase inscribed on a 17th century stone basin at Ryoanji Temple in Kyoto, one of Japan's most famous Zen gardens. The phrase is taru wo shiru, know what is enough. It appears in ancient Chinese philosophy and Buddhist teachings, and apparently on rocks in famous Japanese gardens, which suggests it's been considered important for a very long time. Taru wo shiru doesn't mean be satisfied with less than you deserve. It means develop the genuine capacity to recognize when you actually have enough, rather than perpetually chasing a finish line that someone else keeps moving. Because here's the uncomfortable truth. The entire architecture of American consumer culture is engineered to prevent you from ever feeling like you have enough. Every advertisement is a structured argument that your current situation is deficient, and their product is the solution. Every social media feed is a curated display of what other people have that you don't. One-click purchasing exists specifically to eliminate the pause between desire and transaction, because that pause is where buyer's remorse lives, and buyer's remorse is bad for sales. The system isn't failing. It's working exactly as designed. It's just designed for someone else's financial benefit, not yours. Japan isn't immune to consumer culture. They invented significant portions of it. But they have philosophical counterweights that we don't. Motainai creates friction around waste. Hara Hachibu creates a default stopping point. And the tool we're about to get into creates a moment of deliberate awareness before the month ends. A moment where you actually have to sit with what you did. Section 4. The tool. Kakebo. Okay, here's the tool. And the reason it works is because of everything we just covered. The philosophy has to come first. The notebook is just the philosophy made practical. In 1904, a woman named Hani Motoko published a household accounting system in her Japanese women's magazine. Hani was Japan's first female newspaper reporter, which in 1904 was about as welcome as you'd imagine. She designed the system specifically for housewives who were entirely excluded from formal finance. Women will manage household money every day, but had no framework for understanding where it went or how to take control of it. She called it kakebo, household finance ledger, roughly translated. By 1965, half of all Japanese households kept one. Here is the complete system, and I want you to notice how simple it is because the simplicity is the point. At the beginning of each month, you open a notebook, a physical notebook with a pen. Yes, an actual pen, the thing you own 14 of and can never find, and you answer 4 questions. How much money do I have coming in this month? How much do I want to save? How much am I spending? And how can I improve? Every single purchase gets written by hand into 4 categories: needs, rent, utilities, groceries, transportation, the non-negotiables.
Wants, dining out, clothes, entertainment, hobbies. Things that bring enjoyment but aren't essential. Culture, books, concerts, courses, experiences that grow you intellectually or creatively. And yes, this is deliberately separate from wants, and we'll talk about why in a minute. Unexpected, car repairs, medical bills, the birthday you completely forgot about until the morning of. The stuff that comes out of nowhere every single month. At the end of the month, you sit down with your notebook and you reflect. What went well? What didn't? What brought genuine satisfaction? What do you regret? What is one specific thing you'll change next month? That's the entire system. No subscription, no algorithm, a notebook, and 4 questions. Section 5. Why this works, the neuroscience. Now look, I know what you're thinking.
That sounds like every budget I've tried and quit after 3 weeks. A notebook isn't magic. And you're right that a notebook isn't magic. But here's what makes Kakebo neurologically different from every digital tool you've ever used. And this part is backed by actual research, not just lifestyle content. In 2024, researchers at the Norwegian University of Science and Technology ran a study using 256 sensor EEG caps, extremely detailed brain activity monitors, comparing what happens when people write by hand versus type on a keyboard. The results were not subtle. Handwriting activated far more elaborate neural connectivity patterns across the brain, particularly in regions associated with memory formation, learning, and emotional encoding. Typing produced almost no activity in those same regions. The brain treats handwriting as a meaningful act. It treats typing as transcription. Earlier work out of Princeton and UCLA found that people who take notes on laptops essentially record passively. Their brains are in stenography mode. People who write by hand are forced to process, synthesize, and engage with what they're writing because they can't write fast enough to copy everything verbatim. They have to think about what they're putting down. Applied to Kakebo, when you physically write, spent $43 on takeout Tuesday night, stressed, didn't want to cook, you have processed that purchase in a way that looking at a bar chart in an app simply does not achieve. The app shows you what you did. Writing it down makes you feel what you did. And feelings, not data, are what change human behavior. This is where it gets really interesting. The unexpected category is doing an enormous amount of psychological heavy lifting for most people the first time they use this system. Because when you have to physically write down every car repair, every medical copay, every "I'll just put it on the card" moment, you see it all in one place, in your own handwriting, month after month. It stops feeling unexpected. It starts feeling like a pattern. And patterns can be planned for. What felt like financial chaos turns out to be a completely predictable $400 to $600 per month of expenses that you were just choosing not to see. Section 6. The 4 categories and why they matter. The category structure in Kakebo is doing something subtle that most Western budgeting frameworks completely miss, and I want to make sure this lands. In most Western budgeting apps, a $60 cookbook and a $60 dinner out are both food, or maybe both dining. They look identical in your spending summary, same dollar amount, same category color, same judgment from the algorithm. In Kakebo, the cookbook is culture, the dinner is a want. That is a completely different internal conversation. One is investment in yourself, one is consumption. Both are valid. I'm not telling you not to eat dinner out, but knowing which one you're consistently choosing over months creates an entirely different understanding of what your money actually represents to you and what kind of life you're actually building. And before any non-essential purchase, Kakebo applies one more filter. 3 questions, and you only need to be honest with yourself about which one applies. Do I genuinely need this? Do I genuinely want this? Or am I just bored? One of those 3 leads to a purchase you'll feel good about. The other 2, if you're honest, do not. That's not deprivation. That's the difference between spending with intention and spending with momentum. Most American consumer spending is momentum spending. You weren't looking for it, an algorithm showed it to you, it was easy to click, you did it, and now it's arriving on Thursday and you've already forgotten you ordered it. The pause that Kakebo forces, the physical act of writing it down, of categorizing it, of asking why, is friction. Deliberate, productive friction. The same friction that one-click checkout was specifically engineered to eliminate. You are re-adding friction that someone spends billions of dollars removing from your life. That is a radical act. Section 7. Putting it together, the actual step-by-step. All right, let's make this concrete. Here's exactly how you start. Step 1. Tonight, before you go to sleep, go buy a notebook. It can be a $3 composition book from CVS. It doesn't need to be beautiful, it doesn't need to have sections pre-printed, a blank notebook and a pen. That's it. Step 2. First of the next month, or honestly just tomorrow, open to the first page and write down 4 numbers. Your expected income this month, the amount you want to save, and if you don't know where to start, write 20% of your income. That's your hara ochobu number. Your fixed expenses, rent, utilities, subscriptions you actually use, and what remains for flexible spending. Every day for 1 month, every purchase gets written down, every single one. The $3 coffee, the $14 Hulu, the $280 car insurance. Write down the amount, the category, need, want, culture, or unexpected, and one sentence for why. Not an essay, one sentence. Need at lunch, forgot to pack food. Wanted it, impulse buy on Instagram. Birthday gift, plant. One sentence, that's all. End of the month, sit down with your notebook for 20 minutes. No phone, just you and the pages. Add up each category, look at the numbers, then answer these 4 questions in writing. What went well? What didn't? What genuinely satisfied me? What do I regret? And what is one thing, just one, I'll do differently next month? That's the whole system. 4 questions at the start, daily entries, 4 questions at the end. Ryan tries Kakebo for 1 month. The first thing he notices is how uncomfortable it is to write things down. Not because writing is hard, because awareness is hard. He's been protected from that awareness by the automation of his app. The app categorizes his delivery order as dining and moves on without judgment. Writing it down means Ryan has to decide, is this a need or a want? And then the question Kakebo insists, why? Was it hunger or avoidance? That question, sitting there in his own handwriting, is something Rocket Money has never once asked him. After 3 months, Ryan can tell you exactly where his money goes. More importantly, he can tell you why. And the why turns out to be the thing that was always missing. Here's the honest summary. Japan didn't build a saving culture by being more disciplined than everyone else. They built it by making the right choice feel natural and the wrong choice feel genuinely uncomfortable. Motenai makes waste feel wrong. Hara Ochobu makes excess feel like a mistake. Kakebo makes spending feel real in a way that an automated app never can. You don't need to move to Tokyo, you don't need a different income, you don't need to find some investing hack or a secret strategy that the wealthy are hiding from you. You need a $3 notebook, a pen, any pen, you have so many pens, and the willingness to write down every purchase you make for 1 month and then sit with what you find. You need to move 20% of your next paycheck somewhere you won't spend it before you see it, today, before you forget, before the momentum of normal life carries you past it. And you need to get genuinely, uncomfortably honest about the things you're spending money on are building the life you actually want, or just filling the space where that life should be. The app will keep categorizing your spending. It will keep generating charts. It will keep sending notifications you dismiss. None of that has worked. You've had the data for years. Data isn't the problem. The notebook is waiting. The only question is whether you're ready to actually look. If this video helped you think about money differently, I'd really appreciate a thumbs up. It genuinely helps this channel reach people who need to hear this. And if you want to go deeper on the investing side of what to do once you've actually got money saved, I'll link to the video on the smartest order to invest your money right up there. I'll see you in the next one.